Voices of Sustainability enters an exciting new chapter, one that builds on real-world impact and goes deeper into the action behind it. We started the journey with a voice and face known all over the world, but whose purpose goes beyond the spotlight.
Hollywood actor, entrepreneur, and environmental advocate Adrian Grenier joins us to explore how creativity and storytelling can turn environmental awareness into meaningful action.
I am Anita Erskine.
And I am Omar Butti, and this is Voices of Sustainability, presented by the Zayed Sustainability Prize. Welcome to Voices of Sustainability, brought to you by the Zayed Sustainability Prize. And delighted to have with us here on the show our first voice for this season, Adrian Grenier, actor and advocate. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, glad to be here.
This is your second time back in Abu Dhabi, right?
That's right, yeah, the second time. I'm glad to be here. It's even more exciting the second time, because now there's familiarity.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you back and hopefully many more times. You're certainly well known now as an environmental advocate, as someone who speaks for a more sustainable lifestyle, more intentional sort of lifestyle. I think exemplified by both the company that you founded recently, Earthspeed, in India.
Yeah, correct.
But also your move to a farm in Texas. And I'm curious sort of about the root of that, the history of it. Where that passion, that advocacy came from. I know that you co-founded a company in 2010, Shift.com, which sort of advocated for that type of thing. Is that where it started, or does it go back much farther?
I mean, it goes back to good parenting, I'd say. You know, my mom always taught me to care for my environment and take care of myself. And really, the earth is just an extension of that. So, you got to clean your room, and then as you get older, you recognize that your room becomes a home and a neighborhood and a whole planet and a whole global community. So for me, it's just an obvious extension of self-care. Earth care is self-care, as I say.
Very nicely said. Was there a specific, though, I don't know, formative event, something you remember from that good parenting, I suppose, from the upbringing, that really, I guess, helped this idea click in your head?
Well, I'd say, the true catalyst came at an older age, because I've been doing environmental work for 25 plus years. And for the most part, it's always been externally focused. They say, when you're young, you try and change the world. And as you get older, you change yourself. So I really think in many ways, it's an inside job. As I got older, I realized that I wanted to really get to know the environment as opposed to have an outward projection of what I thought the environment was. I grew up in New York, so in many ways, utterly disconnected from the environment, except Central Park. The skyscrapers, you can't see the sky, it's concrete below your feet. And yet I had all these grandiose ideas of what the environment needed. And yet I hadn't spent a lot of time in nature. So as I got older, I realized I wanted to humble myself and truly get to know the earth and understand what she needs and how to, to gain the skills to actually steward the land, as opposed to trying to tell everyone else how to do it without actually having firsthand experience. So that's when I decided to move my entire life onto a 40-acre farm and quite intentionally raise my children in that environment so that they had an upbringing of that understanding as opposed to having to do it in retrospect like I did.
So what would have been that moment? Was there one day, was there one week, when you felt, okay, this is the time. It is now. I need to make that change right now.
Yeah, I spent a couple years of deep reflection and did a lot of personal development work. So I wouldn't say it was a single moment, but it was a culmination of intentional effort to try and really shape my life and fashion my life into service of my family and the earth. So, and to really align myself with my dharma. In many ways, when I was younger, there was a lot of arrogance, self-assurity, that I knew everything about everything and that I had all the answers. And as I got older and a little disillusioned with my personal plight, I recognized that I needed to humble myself in order to find the next set of decisions and the next direction for my life. And really it was just a process of humbling myself to recognize that I needed to actually fully give myself in service to land stewardship, but not in the abstract, but in the tangible, in the physical, where I mean, you can see the calluses on my hands. Don't let this slick suit fool you. You know, I have overalls underneath this suit because I'm out there learning to actually steward the land, which has deepened my appreciation for the earth, for the design wisdom of nature, and recognizing that nature unto itself has so much more resilience, capacity, wisdom than and complexity than I would have ever appreciated otherwise when I'm coming at it from like the limited thinking of my human perspective. And also just that my whole life is now in a humble apprenticeship of what I can learn to be in service to her needs.
Following up on that idea of a humble apprenticeship, what do you think that specific personal experience has, or how has that personal experience impacted you as a storyteller, as someone who comes from, you know, a long career of telling stories, but now is doing it specifically to advocate for this more harmonious connection to nature?
Yeah, well, I think it's that story of stewardship and bearing witness and listening. You have two eyes and one mouth for a reason, right? Listen more than you talk. You know, a lot of environmental activism that I was engaged in was a lot of soapboxing and talking, a lot less observing and interacting. As in permaculture, it's.
Do you feel like that's less effective?
I think you're missing things if you're too busy, you know, dictating the solutions or imposing your will upon nature, as opposed to really being in that responsive, relational dynamic with the. And you know, it rears its ugly head in ways like I used to make grand assumptions about the way farmers needed to do the correct behavior or the correct way of taking care of land, or not doing this practice, or not using that particular, you know, nutrient or whatever. And now I have a much more humble appreciation for the fact that they're up against a really complex system. If we want to innovate, if we want to really truly create solutions, I think it takes a process of deep learning and understanding before you jump to a solution. And you're designing into the natural system that exists, that is already resilient, that is already, you know, has the complexity of, you know, of a design that's you know, been around a lot longer than we have. So
Yeah. So Adrian, I'm gonna come intern on your farm.
yes, please.
Yes, because
Me too, please.
Come on down.
Yeah.
Let's
We're all inviting ourselves.
But let's talk about a day in the life of Adrian Grenier on the farm. What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, I truly feel blessed. We wake up and we're out in nature within 15, 20 minutes, feeding the animals. And inevitably, you know, it's this funny balance between total, absolute relaxation and chill, and then being in connection to just that like expanse. And then, oh my God, wait, the chickens got out, or like the goats, how did the goats get into the llama pen? And, you know, there's inevitably these moments of heightened alarm, which is so much fun too, because we're not burdened by the abstraction of every day all the time. There's like this real things that we can do that have tangible solutions. And it's very grounding, very, very deeply grounding. And my children love it. I mean, my kids are constantly saying outside. They want to just get out as quickly as possible and go outside, and we can let them. So we go outside, and we have free range llamas. So the llamas come up and give our kids kisses, and my son feeds the chickens and takes out the compost. And it's a lot of that homestead type stuff, which is awesome. And then I have my bigger projects, installing rainwater catchment, working on building a wash shed for the vegetables right now, so we can have a more efficient system of washing the vegetables, and just walking the land and taking notice of what's up, what's going on, what's changed. Does anything need my attention? We had some beavers for a while that were raising ruckus, and so we had to address that. And they were
So the beavers
clogging up
were troublemakers?
They were I mean, look, they're doing what they do, got to respect it,
Yeah.
and living their lives, but they were clogging up one of these particular dams, because we're blessed, we have springs, so they were clogging up this one dam that needed to be continuously cleaned out. But yeah, we're just, we're building the systems, and then maintaining them, and then the endless amount of things that need to get fixed. So there's that creative challenge of learning how to actually fix things, which I never knew how to do.
And you're basically learning this all as it happens.
YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube's great.
YouTube University, man. Yeah.
Wow.
So based on your experience and all the stuff that you share, have you seen people directly inspired by this? People who want to emulate that lifestyle, who want to change their lives in this way?
Oh, absolutely. I get messages all the time saying, I want to live like that. And then also people who said, I did it. I made the step. I took the step to actually get land. And the community at large is growing, it's burgeoning, and you all, as homesteaders, as farmers, you have to support each other. That's sort of the nature of it, right? So inevitably, they're like, hey, if you need anything, let me come help, or get the community together to build something. So I all the time am keeping up with the network of farmers and homesteaders who are either just new to it, who are inspired by what we're doing, or who have seen that we're doing it and are offering support. Every quarter we do permaculture courses, and we do other educational experiences where people can come, stay on the land, and learn how to farm or learn permaculture. So if y'all want to take a class, be my guest.
I mean, I can't speak for you, Anita, but I definitely need it. I would need a lot of YouTube.
Kids.
We're in.
Yeah.
Bring the kids.
Yeah, I mean, they need it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Adrian, we are changing the world. I choose not to say we want to change the world.
It's changing.
We are changing the world.
Yeah.
Talk to us about habits, about intentionality. I mean, what are some of the things that we must pay attention to on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, just to combine the two ideas, we are telling the story of our future. We are telling the story of our change, and these are story points in our destiny. And so I'm really jazzed about what's possible and what is happening. The collaboration, the global collaboration is really exciting. The fact that I'm here talking about the things that get me up in the morning, and that there's so many people out here doing the same or similar work. The fact that there's so much capital going to tell these stories, not just as like an abstract narrative, but that are actually plot points that are being built within society, within civilization, is very exciting. So, I'm very much on board with this idea that we are on the precipice of a renaissance, an environmental growth that's going to be a beautiful one. And for me, my humble participation is in lifestyle, like how you live, how people live together within a culture that respects and appreciates the environment, that that has access to healthy food, to the mental health and wellness that comes from being immersed in a natural environment. So to me, this is where culture and lifestyle meet environmentalism, so that it becomes second nature. It becomes a thing that gets you up in the morning, so that you're breathing deep and like appreciating the sun's rays and, you know, clean environment, as opposed to it being an anxious desperation to save, you know, the savior complex, the environment. You're actually coming alive as opposed to collapsing and surviving.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about then Earth Speed Media,
Mm-hmm.
with that in mind, I guess, in terms of the types of stories that you want to tell and share. And your first series, Earth Speed, seems, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, quite personal. It's very much about you and how, you know, you're sharing your personal experience, good and bad, I imagine. What drives you to tell these stories in very personal ways?
Well, I mean, I am an actor, so all the stories I tell are personal.
Right. Isn't it? Well, we all have ego.
Yeah, cast me, please. You know. Well, I know. So Earth Speed really is my opportunity to share my journey towards learning how to farm. It's like pulling the curtain back to the apprenticeship that I've been going through, learning about, you know, apiary, beekeeping, soil health, permaculture, growing things, them dying and me not understanding why, and learning about, you know, systems and how to design redundancy into those systems, so that, you know, you're actually cultivating abundance within a natural system that already, you know, wants you to like engage with it. So that's Earth Speed is really just, I call it a living, breathing podcast of sorts. And it's been amazing that there's been so much response to it, because I think people are craving that kind of lifestyle. I call it a lifestyle in the cadence of nature. So it's in the rhythm of the earth. It's a lifestyle that flows with, you know, the setting sun and the rising tides.
I am jealous.
Come on down.
It looks lovely.
Yeah.
It looks
The
lovely.
perfect combination of purpose and passion and everything in between.
Absolutely.
I think we should move to Texas.
I mean, I've been to Austin.
Well, you know, we are building homes.
So that's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
else actually I wanted to talk to you about. You know, I know you are an advocate for Agrihoods. This sort of concept is that when we look at your personal lifestyle and how you're sharing with people, is this something where, I know you said you're not trying to save the world. It's very much about looking, you know, within. But is this something that you hope more people take on? Is it something that you think should be widespread everywhere? Sort of what's your hope or your intention in terms of the message you're getting out?
Well, we're trying to crack the code on the model, but so many people in the comments and people following and people I see on the street, like, oh, I wish, they say the same thing. I wish I could live like that. You know, that's the lifestyle that I want. They see it in my eyes, you know, how, and they see it in my children, you know, thriving. And so we said, well, it's so hard to do this stuff alone, and it's not as fun. So can we actually build community? People need places to live. So can we build a village, a modern day village that is close to nature, that has, you know, hyper local access to food, that everyone has a sense of ownership, has some sense of responsibility and connection to the work. It's a new asset class called Agrihoods, which are essentially commercial real estate in farm settings. So imagine replacing the golf course with a farm. And so the amenities are geared towards healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, wellness, nature connection. And people are living in that environment. And that's the lifestyle. That's what you're selling. You're selling the Agrihood lifestyle. And I can't tell you how many people are anxious. They're chomping at the bit to have a piece of that heaven. And so if we can build the model so that we can build affordable housing where they're actually able to live together on that piece of property, I think we're going to do a great thing for that micro community. And then we can scale it by building, a million 40-acre farmsteads, as opposed to, these big agriculture projects, which can be so big and cumbersome, but then you have so many challenges to try and get the food to people. And then, it's just the disconnect continues.
I'm curious, this is maybe more of a personal thing. I have two sons. They're very much urbanized, not great with the
I know how they feel. I grew up in New York. I get it.
Oh, yeah. But you've talked about like having a very different upbringing for your kids. I'm curious sort of for you, having grown up in New York, looking at their experience versus your own, what you see, what you think is maybe better or different or aspirational for the future in terms of this type of lifestyle?
I mean, look, there are trade-offs in every decision we make. I had a lot of benefit growing up in New York, culturally and otherwise. But there's something about living in nature that is so good for a young person. It's an unmediated experience. My children have never seen a television. They go out and their imagination is running wild.
So they've never seen you in anything?
No. My children don't know
Who you really are.
For better or for worse, maybe for better. Yeah, they think I'm a farmer, which is pretty funny because I'm not really that great at it. But they see me engaged with the earth. But just on a basic health level, their microbiome is getting all of those micronutrients directly from the soil. They're eating farm fresh organic eggs. They're eating food directly from the earth, which hasn't been handled by 20 different people on a flatbed and a freezer. It's coming directly from the ground. And also they're building an appreciation for that level of work and engagement that it requires. And another thing that's super important is they're in touch with that life-death cycle. We as modern people are often isolated from existential reality.
Sure.
We repress it. We're death phobic. On the land, you have to engage with it. I mean, we have, sometimes chickens that pass, that die, or sometimes we harvest a chicken. And so for my children to understand that that's where their food comes from and to respect it and show a level of spiritual acknowledgement and appreciation for this animal that's given its life so that we may eat, I think are lessons that you just, they're invaluable.
There's amazing power in that, like focusing on your children as a way to change the world, because that's generations to come, right?
Amen. Yes, and that is partly what I have done in my, I guess, next phase of environmental work is I'm really trying to play 10 moves ahead, 10 generations ahead. I don't know, it's like planting trees whose shade you may not sit under. But you're doing that for a future that on some level is, all of us, all of the little children inside of us get to enjoy. So, yeah, my children, I do it for my children and their children, and it starts with just committing to that future moment without expectation of getting something in return, right?
So right here, I mean, you've got UAE, you've got Africa, you've got North America, we've got, kind of like the world.
There we go.
We are the world.
We are the world. Let's talk about, I love the concept of agrihoods. I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, and so I completely see and feel what you're talking about. How adaptable will agrihoods be across or around the world?
Well, I think that's the tricky part about this solution is it requires unique expressions of what an agrihood is, that is like a collaboration with local people to create what works for them in where they live. So I know people want scalable solutions. They want solutions that can affect the entire world, but it can't be a top-down thing. You know, you can't dictate from on high, you know, what works in Texas, which will work anywhere else around the world. So that it really requires that each building block is a foundational, solid, unique expression, which just takes a little bit more time to seed those developments, so that, you know, you are actually responsive to the people who are there, and then the climate as well.
Of course.
And so that's what we're trying to solve, is like, people want scalability, obviously. So how do we create a model that can be outsourced and shared, so that you can have that network effect, without having a definitive solution in every single region?
I'm also very interested in, or personally, I should say, in names. I think names are very, people name things, they're very deliberate, they have power. And the ranch is called Kintsugi, right?
Correct, yes.
Why did you pick that name?
Kintsugi Ranch. Kintsugi, for those of you that don't know, the word is, it's a Japanese concept of mending broken pottery with gold. So it's this story of renewal and rebirth, and honoring the cracks, you know, highlighting the parts of us that are broken, knowing that we are all a little bit broken, but that we can respect and appreciate that as the wisdom that we attain through those hardships, through those trials. The name came because my wife, it's actually my wife's brainchild, because she was studying acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and she came across the concept, and she thought it was a great reflection of our story, because my wife and I, we were together the early days, and then we broke up, and then we came back together, better and stronger. It was a reflection of our story, but then also of what we're doing to heal our broken relationship with nature, getting back to the land, starting to understand what it's like to be in the flows of the earth. And then the regenerative, going back to regenerative practices within the farm community, as opposed to these old, more destructive, extractive techniques, which is a healing and a renewal of its own sort. So the metaphor just continues to give endlessly to the experience, and it's a really beautiful metaphor. And yeah, we're called Kintsugi Ranch, and yeah, I think it just works perfect.
And the world is broken in so many different ways, isn't it? So
it is, and to not despair, but to appreciate and honor that as a necessary step towards wisdom and healing and renewal.
Yeah.
I think that's something which is very admirable about you, if I may compliment you, which is, you know, if you look at the world today, it's very easy to look at it and feel pessimistic, right? Whether it's in the environmental space or otherwise. And yet, based on the work you do, based on how long you've been doing it, I have to assume you're an optimist, right? That you believe that there's this better future out there. I'm curious, for you specifically, what is it that gives you hope for that future? What is it that inspires you or makes you believe that that potential is there?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get enamored by the temporary nature of the flesh and our experience here. You know, it's a spiritual thing for me. You know, when you recognize that we are infinite souls, and that we're telling an infinite story, there is something very self-assured and arrogant about imminent destruction. We don't know.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what the future is. So I just try and always remain humble and try and find the answer to this moment, and how I can show up better, and how I could, you know, be more ethical, make wiser choices in this moment, based on, you know, a prayer that I say to a higher calling or a higher purpose. And in that, nothing is absolute, nothing is defined. and we are merely potential, and we get to realize that potential with every decision we make.
And I guess it's, you may feel the same way we feel when you see all these organizations and individuals working towards something, energy or education or the climate. Describe how you feel when you hear about the successes of all these winners here at the prize.
I mean, talk about humbles. I mean, you think you're doing a lot of good work for the environment, and then you see these teams, these teens, these scientists, these thinkers, these innovators, these entrepreneurs creating some amazing, impactful solutions. And you're just like, wow, 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 wow. Just like y'all are just really doing the real work. I mean, look, I might look good in a suit and on camera, but the level of work that they're doing that is unseen and underappreciated perhaps, and yet they continue to do it at a high level is awesome to witness. Yeah.
And I guess when we're talking about platforms like the Sustainability Prize, obviously the award is a great moment. I'm privileged enough to announce the winners, and it's always lovely to see the joy on their faces.
Totally, yeah.
But it's just a tiny part, right? That's just a recognition for all the work that you said they're doing. But from your perspective, why do you think those types of platforms, these moments of recognition, are important?
Yeah, well, these prizes actually allow for the higher risk exploration of the potential that we want to see manifest happen. I mean, it opens up the opportunity for capital, for awareness of potential solutions. In a traditional finance setting, money's very risk averse. But when you have a prize that is, has a moonshot perspective, it's like, we're going to do something that hasn't even been thought of before. It's really hard to raise the kind of money to actually get those startups off the ground, if you will. But when you have a prize that sort of, defines the direction and the goal, and sort of is the first mover in many ways, that's the first money's in. It's really important because you get to not only start to find the few solutions that have legs, but it actually creates the awareness so that traditional capital can come in behind it and make it a real thing.
Adrian, take us 50 years from now.
Ooh.
Only 50.
Yeah, I'll still be around. Okay, okay, we're good.
If we were talking about some guy called Adrian, in 50 years, how would you like to be described? What would your legacy be? And be honest.
Wow, there's I'm almost going to tear up thinking about it. I'd like to know that the Agrihood, that the community that we built is thriving, and that we have food in abundance, that people are feasting off of, that those trees that we planted this year are now bearing fruit, and maybe I get a little bit of shade. A little bit.
Somewhere.
I mean, if it's 50 years from now, that's very possible.
Yeah.
And that my kids and grandkids are still there and really appreciate what we've built, and that they've inherited something more than money. They've inherited a lifestyle and something that's just beyond the edges of our calculators that we can even describe. There's something that's ineffable about community and a deep-rooted connection. So I'm hoping that not only my children get to enjoy that, but that we have intergenerational housing so that us old folks don't get kicked out. We still have a place because I'm going to be very old at the time.
I'm sure you'll still be in great shape.
Thank you. Yes.
With more calluses, maybe?
Definitely. But that we're there also, and that we get to grow up with our with the young people, and that we can pass down our wisdom, and that they're listening, and that they care, and they're not just pushing us off into the old age homes. And yeah, that sounds like a good dream.
Amen to that.
That's a pretty good dream.
Really.
Just to sort of bring everything home then, if there's one habit that you would recommend everyone sort of take on in their life, whether it's be more intentional or otherwise, that we all can do today, what would that be? Not
Breathe.
on the spot.
Well, it's like breathe. I was like, you know, there are certain habits that our biology has already baked into us, you know, so maybe just look at what's natural and just do that intentionally. You know, a lot of things we do mindlessly, they're just like autonomic, but like breathing, for example, you know, can you take the time to actually do it with intention? And you recognize why it's automatic, because it's that important. You know, there's certain things that are just second nature, but don't take them for granted.
3, 2, 1, breathe in.
What a wonderful way to end the conversation. Adrian Grenier, thank you so much for being with us on Voices of Sustainability, being here in Abu Dhabi. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Cheers. Thank you.